Did you know the average D2C brand leaves 20 to 50% of their potential revenue on the table with ineffective email marketing? I see this pattern with almost every 7 and 8 figure D2C brand that we audit. Here's what's probably happening right now. You're likely sending campaigns, maybe you have some basic flow set up, there's no real strategy in what you're doing. And you're frustrated because meta costs keep climbing, but your own channels just aren't picking up the slack like everyone tells you they should be. Email is down when ads are down, and when ads are up, your own channels just aren't picking up the slack because retention is just an afterthought. Now, in this video, I'm going to share 5 new email marketing strategies we use to help fix this problem. Now, the problem isn't that email doesn't work anymore. The problem is what I call a pre-campaign failure, where brands set themselves up to fail before they even hit send on a campaign. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so the problem here is the email disconnect. There are 3 critical mistakes that sabotage your campaigns before they even begin. The first one being your pre-campaign failure. Now, most brands use a generic pop-up and offer way too much margin right out the gate. This is going to attract discount seekers versus ideal customers, and it also sacrifices that long-term customer value just for a short-term conversion. Now, this is something that we've tested pretty consistently. We actually had a brand that was running a 35% off pop-up offer, which like in and of itself is kind of crazy, but we recommended they test 20% off, which is still really, really high, but we wanted to see what kind of a difference that would have. The wild thing was that even though we were offering less in the pop-up, the opt-in rates were actually higher. This is likely due to perceived value, right? If you perceive the value of something as higher, you're probably going to take it more seriously versus an offer that's like, yo, we'll basically just give you this product. The other even crazier piece of this though, was that not only did they increase their opt-in rate, so were they getting more people through the system, but they were also generating more revenue from their welcome series flow and more profit. So their opt-in rates were higher, they were getting more purchases through the flow, and they were getting more profit off of all of those purchases. The purchase rate ended up going from like 4.8% to about 9.8%, and with the added bonus of having more profit per purchase, which is kind of crazy. Now, problem number 2 is siloed communication channels. Now, ads, email, and SMS typically just operate completely independently rather than synergistically. There's no coordinated strategy between channels, and this creates a disjointed customer experience across every different touch point. There's a ton of missed opportunity here because if you continue to maintain the ad sent across your email, across your website, across your SMS, people will be more likely to purchase because they keep seeing the same thing. However, if you see one thing somewhere and then another thing somewhere else and then another thing somewhere else, even if it's just like sales content, right? If your ad says 50% off and then your pop-up says 10% off and then your website says buy 2, get 1 free or something like that, it's a lot of confusion, and ultimately it will not convert as well, right? We want to make sure things are as seamless as possible for the end user and that we eliminate any kind of confusion that people might have based off of different communication channels saying one thing versus another. Now, not only will this help if you're just all aligned, however, beyond that though, if your ad team is talking with your email team who is talking to your Google team or whatever it is, what you're going to be able to do is share that information. And that's exactly what we did with one of our clients. What we started doing was we started collecting zero-party data in a pop-up. And what we found was that all of their marketing messaging, this was a soup company, all of their marketing messaging was just revolving around how it's convenient and that it's vegan. And when we started surveying people through this zero-party data pop-up, we found that they were actually way more interested in gut health, and that convenience and the fact that it's vegan was very low on the totem pole for these people. So what we did is we started gathering that data. We started building out campaigns specific to, hey, here's how to promote healthy gut health. Here's what our product does to give you better gut health, that kind of thing, right? We start building upon that, but then we also shared that with their ads team. Now their ads team took that and started creating ad creatives out of that zero-party data, out of basically that were based off of the pain point of people not having great gut health. And then we were collecting this data from people and then hitting people up with campaigns and flows that were actually relevant to them. Because they wanted to improve their gut health, we really focused on that. And that ended up 3xing this business in just a few months. And it was also in their slow season. They were selling soup, and this was in like July and August, which is typically slow season for soup. Now, problem number 3 is when there's just a short-term revenue focus. So basically increasing frequency and discounting things just to hit immediate targets. What this is going to cause is list fatigue, and then it's also going to reduce your deliverability. Brands that are focused on that short-term revenue see a 42% higher unsubscribe rate, which means you're just losing people for the sake of losing people. At the end of the day, unsubscribe rates have, I think a lot of people put way too much emphasis in unsubscribe rates. Yeah, they're important, but also we don't want people who aren't interested on the list in the first place. However, if they're way higher than they should be, or we're just losing people because we're being annoying, that's not good, right? People are going to unsubscribe naturally, but if you could have 50% less people unsubscribing, that means your list is going to be shrinking at a much lower rate. All that to say, a lot of these brands end up focusing so much on those short-term sales where the long-term customer loyalty is sacrificed. So what is the solution to this? Well, it's something that we call the loyalty loop system. And this helps to drive more consistent revenue growth through integrated email marketing. Now, let me explain what that actually means. Step one is strategic list building. So like I mentioned, we want to collect zero-party data. Using zero-party data collection at the top of the funnel can help to really just feed that information everywhere else in the funnel. We want to make sure we're qualifying subscribers based off of purchase intent rather than just discounts. If we have a 40% off pop-up, they're probably just going to buy when we have 40% off or higher. We're training people to only buy with high discounts. Not great. Now, from this zero-party data, we're also getting higher lead quality because we're gathering that information, we understand what they want, and then we're able to create better campaigns and better flows based off of that data and based off of what people actually want to receive. So usually what this looks like is, number one, an engaging question in the pop-up, just basically like an initial interest-based question. Number two is data collection, so gathering that and then gathering what their preferences or needs might be. You can integrate a quiz in here as well. If you offer skincare or if you offer something that is really solving someone's problem, this can be a really good option here. And then three is capturing their email. Now, things you're going to want to do with this pop-up. Number one, you're going to want to make sure you're testing out mobile versus desktop. Different user behaviors require different approaches, and we want to make sure that the pop-up and the layout are optimized for mobile and are optimized for desktop. I'd also recommend A/B testing offers across different platforms and different audience segments. There's a lot of different things that we can do here, but the offer is going to be the thing that is going to move the needle the most. If you don't want to have a percentage off or a dollar off, there are alternatives to that. Like, you can do free gift with purchase, you can do mystery discount, you can do a whole variety of different things, right? You could do even a credit, right? Like a store credit. Now, the testing strategy that we use is number one, testing out the offers, like I mentioned. Number two, testing out the copy. Number three, testing out the design. And number four, testing out the call to action. Now, the copy is actually really important. What you want to think about when you're creating your pop-up is, how is an end user going to perceive this? What are they going to feel? What are they going to want from this? Do they even want it? If you're just like, hey, sign up and join our list for cool updates, people are gonna be like, I don't care. Like, no one cares. You're not that important, right? However, if you're making it about them and making it about something that they have already, people are much more likely to be loss averse than to want to gain something. This is something that we've seen across even all of our ads and whatnot, right? There's so much testing behind this where you can see people are more likely to want to avoid loss than they are to want to gain something. Now, the second piece is the core automation system. So what we want to do is build automated sequences that drive consistent revenue and customer engagement. The essential flows that you're going to want to have are the welcome series, abandoned checkout, post-purchase, and the win back. Now, the welcome series is just building trust and getting people to that first purchase, introducing the brand and introducing some of the USPs or unique selling propositions. The abandoned checkout is basically just addressing different objections that people have. So many brands just go straight for the kill and they're like, yeah, here's 20% off, here's 15% off. It gives away margin, right? I'd much rather handle other objections that people might have before you give away margin. So what we want to focus on here is any hesitations, any objections that people have, and just removing other purchase barriers that people might have here. Price is just one of them. Now, the third is post-purchase, and this is one where so many brands, so many agencies just drop the ball completely. There's not necessarily objections per se, but buyer's remorse happens very quickly. So what we want to do is eliminate that buyer's remorse, but also we want to use those post-purchase touch points, like literally the point where people are most engaged and most excited, to get them excited, to get them engaged, and also to build retention. This is where we build loyalty, because if someone has a great post-purchase experience, if they have a great first experience with you, they'll come back. If they have a shitty first experience with you, they're not going to come back. And the final thing here is the win back. So there's obviously more flows than this, but these are some of the core ones that you're really going to want. The win back is just re-engaging lapsed customers. We want to make sure we're not just forgetting about these people. And basically the good strategy that we use is personalized offers based off of their previous purchase history. So these are just going out to people who have purchased before. The thing is, most brands' flows look the exact same and sound the exact same. What we want to do is handle specific objections based off of the brand. Now, additional flow techniques that you can use is conditional splits and cross-channel coordination. So conditional splits based off of customer behavior, so based off of them doing something, looking at something, shopping at a certain collection, that type of thing, or based off of purchase history, browse or email engagement, or based off of what they're saying in their zero-party data. Now, the third piece here is strategic segmentation. Now, a lot of people use the RFM method. So that's recency, frequency, and monetary value. What I'd recommend doing is not only that, but also looking at engagement-based segments. So if they've engaged in the last 30, 60, or 90 days, and also looking at their purchase history and product category interests, right? So not only can we look into their recency, meaning like how long ago they've done a certain thing, their frequency, how many times they've done that, and then the monetary value, meaning like, hey, we're looking at someone who's never purchased, someone who's purchased once or purchased 3 times. The other thing to look at though is looking at specific categories and browsing behavior as well. Now, the reason that this is so powerful is because so many brands just kind of focus on blasting everyone on their list with content that isn't super relevant. However, if you're collecting this zero-party data like in part 1, and you're leveraging that in part 2, where you're nurturing people, in part 3, you should be able to have a really good understanding of what people actually want and then deliver messages and emails of like what they actually want, right? Now, all of this is fine and dandy, but one of the biggest things that I see brands miss out on and just completely neglect is just taking deliverability seriously. At the end of the day, if you do not end up in someone's inbox, if you're ending up in spam, that's the silent killer. You won't generate revenue because people won't even see you in the first place. So protecting your sender reputation is super, super important. Sunsetting unengaged people is also super, super important. That's another flow that we usually integrate. And then number 3 is just re-engaging campaigns. What we want to do here is not just like this more of the same. Like if someone's received 10 emails and they haven't opened any of them, if you send them an 11th email that looks like the previous 10, it's probably not going to work, right? So we want to make sure we're changing things up. And if we're trying to re-engage people, there's a different strategy that we're using and the content is different because of that. Now, part 4 here, kind of in line with part 3, is the campaign strategy. What we want to do, instead of just blasting everyone with promos and like why we're so great and all that, we want to focus on a value first campaign calendar. So I've kind of alluded to this a little bit based off of the zero-party data and based off of hitting people's objections based off of where they're at. But what we want to do is prioritize customer experience over those short-term monetary gains like sales and promos and that kind of thing. Now, you can definitely mix those in and those are super beneficial, but we don't just want every email to be sale, 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 sale. It will numb people, right? So what we want to do is make sure the content is varied and it's value first, and then look at establishing a good sending frequency. Now, this is going to vary depending on your brand, but for most brands, sending between 2 and 4 emails a week is going to be the sweet spot for you. You most likely don't need to send 1 every single day, and if you're sending less than 2 a week, you're not sending enough emails. That's just it. So many brands are so worried about pissing people off, but if you send content that people actually want to receive and they receive it and they actually wanted to receive it, then they probably won't unsubscribe. If you're blasting every single person on your list and it's content that people don't really give a shit about, then you're going to have a different story there. And you're right, you're probably going to piss a lot of people off. So when it comes to a good content mix, usually what we'll do is like a 60% value driven content, 30% promotional, and then 10% brand storytelling. Now you can mix this and match this however you might want to do. If you only do promos once a year, that's totally cool. If you do it twice a year, that's totally cool. There's different ways that you can approach this and different things that you can do that will still drive a lot of revenue. Thinking like brands, product spotlights, collection spotlights, features and benefits, us versus them. There's so many different types of campaigns that you can do. The list is literally endless. Now, the next piece is frequency optimization. Segment-based timing is one thing that works quite well here. And really what this is like you're looking at a certain segment and you're sending that certain segment X amount of emails per month. Engagement-driven cadence, this is again like based off of a 30, 60, 90-day engaged audience. And then your purchase history triggers as well. Obviously, if someone just purchased something, it doesn't really make sense to send them a product spotlight about that exact product. Like one of 3 things is true. Either they got it and they love it, they got it and they didn't like it, or they haven't received it yet. In none of those cases should we be sending them basically a product spotlight about why the product's so great. So that is a 4-part strategy, and exactly what we do for our clients You can go ahead, implement this yourself. There's a ton of resources in my YouTube channel where you can go check out like different ways to do certain flows and whatnot. But if you don't want to do it yourself, or you don't have the team to do it in-house, then feel free to click the link below. There should be a link where you can schedule a free strategy call. On that call, we'll just determine like, hey, is this actually a good fit to work together? And then if we are, we'll do a 75-point audit. It is super extensive, very detailed, and it'll basically uncover all of the issues with your current email system. Now, if that sounds like of interest to you, then go ahead and click the link below and we will hopefully chat soon. Thanks so much.